Hey, listen, welcome to the channel. Do me a favor, like, share, comment, hit the bell to be notified so that when I drop a new video, you will get an alert. What's up, Chloe? Chloe said, amazing. I'm watching a live police chase in LA, and I was just hoping you are okay. Yes, ma'am. We are at home, safe and sound, okay, minding our business. But yeah, we home. They always have police chases out here, man. These people crazy. Okay. But I'm not gonna drag this or prolong this. I just wanted to come on here and kind of just give like some education and some spread some awareness about epilepsy today, because it's March the 26th. And all across the world, they are celebrating Purple Day, a day utilized to spread information. It's so many people that don't have the proper information about seizures and what to do if a person has a seizure. Like, there's so many misconceptions about the whole putting a spoon in their mouth. Hey, never put nothing in nobody's mouth, okay? Never put anything in a person's mouth if they are having a seizure. But I'm spreading this awareness because, as many of you may know, my baby was diagnosed with epilepsy back in 2021 of February. Now, when she was diagnosed, I was on a 21-day fast. And guess what? I was on day 20, okay? We were at my mother's house, and she came out of the room and was like, I seen fire. Like, she had this whole little get down of what she saw, right? And so I was like, oh, it's time to go. So we left my mother's house, and I ran home to go do something because somebody wanted to buy some merchandise, and I was going to leave my kid in the car with Rashad because, she looked like she was sleepy. Now, all in behold, I didn't even know she was having a seizure in the back seat of the car. I assumed she was asleep or falling asleep, right? So when I went to the back of the car, boom, I tried to pull Taylor out. I was like, okay, she's asleep. I'm going to just let her, stay. Shout out to Bridget. Chloe said, happy Purple Day, Taylor, period. Don't forget to hit the like, guys. So I left them. Oh, so I told Rashad, bring her out of the car. So just so happened, I ended up talking to my neighbor. They were outside, and Rashad tried to stand Taylor up. When he tried to stand Taylor up, she fell. I was able to see this because I seen the surveillance cameras. But when she fell, Rashad screamed, Mom, and he was like, I don't know what's wrong with her. So I ran and grabbed her, and I'm calling her name, Taylor. She's not responding, y'all. Like, it was crazy. Now, in my mind, I'm like, Lord, we just left my mama house. I hope she didn't get a hold to no medication on the floor. You know how my mama live alone. So I'm thinking like maybe, she dropped some medication on the floor. I didn't know what was going on. So I literally ran to the car, put my baby in the car, and I drove her to the ambulance. I drove her to the hospital. And when I got to the hospital, listen, you talking about ran, I grabbed my baby out the car and I was running to the emergency room with her. And I ain't gonna lie, I was tired, child. Rashad had to run past me, and they ended up meeting me with a bed because it was a long run, okay? So boom. So they took her in there, and, they gave her some anti-seizure medication or whatever. They gave her a CAT scan, and then they put us on an ambulance, and they sent us to a children's hospital. Now, when they sent us to this children's hospital, they hooked her up to a machine called the EEG. And that's when they put all of those little things on your head or whatever to see like the brain waves, I guess. And so the neurologist had came and talked to me and her dad, and that's when he told us like, hey, your daughter has epilepsy. And I ain't gonna hold y'all. Like, when it happened, I was like, dog, this is crazy. Like, I'm crying, like I'm trying to keep it together. And I'm like, okay, so we like, well, what's next? The doctor say, well, it's best if you start her on medication because it's gonna happen again. Because I guess while she was asleep, she still was having like they still could see like epileptic waves in her brain, and so we decided to go ahead and put her on medication. Now I'm not gonna hold you. Looking back in hindsight, I kind of wish that me and him would have taken time before putting her on medication to do our research and to see if there were any alternatives to the medication that we could have potentially did. But hey, it is what it is. So we put her on medication, boom. And so that was our new life, right? So here I got a baby that just had a seizure. I was scared for her to do anything. Like, I would take her to the park because, like, they tell you not to, like, let them be high, not to let them do like certain activities. So I was like that parent that could not sit down and watch their kid play at the park. Like, I was like just like hawking my baby, like making sure she was okay. I was worried, like thinking like, oh, when is the next one gonna come? I started watching all of these videos of kids having seizures. Like, I was freaking myself out. Okay. I had joined this epilepsy group on Facebook, and the parents were just posting all of these videos of their children, and I had to leave because it was just traumatizing me, right? So after a month or two, my nerves started calming down, and I started like acting normal or what have you. And Taylor went a whole year without having a seizure, guys, a whole year. And so then 2022 came. It was a lot going on in that year. I was going through a lot, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I just was going through a lot myself. And that year she ended up having 5 seizures within the duration of the year. One of those seizures she had when I was in Costa Rica on the first night, y'all. I was having guilt. Like, I was having guilt for even being away. I'm getting phone calls, trying to conduct business over the phone in another country. It was like the hardest thing ever. It was tough. It was really tough. But I'm so grateful that I had left her with my aunt, and she was in good care or whatever. But it made me not want to leave her. Okay. So like I said, 5 seizures, boom, the whole year. 2023, she had a seizure in April 12th of 2023. And it was so crazy because we had just had a regular normal day, me and her sitting at the dinner table, and we talking, we eating, and I'm sitting right across from her. And at the time we had like that high dinner table with the bar stools, and she was looking down at the floor. Now I thought she dropped something, right? But lo and behold, she was stuck looking down at the floor. And I'm like, Taylor. And so she didn't respond. So I got up and I picked her up and I looked, and she had like this look on her face, right? So I already knew what was going on. So I went and I laid her on her side. I threw on some clothes because I was going to drive her to the hospital because we were right around the corner. But unfortunately, she started jerking when I got to the car, so I couldn't sit her down. And so we called 911. They came or whatever, and that was the last time she had a seizure. So come April 12th, 2025, if it be God's will, we will be 2 years seizure free. Thank the Lord. Oh, I'm so grateful that he has been keeping her. And so her last neurology appointment, the doctor told us that 2 years is the minimum. He was like, we're going to push for 3 to, basically make sure, and then we'll wean her off of her medication. So I am trusting God and believing that he is healing my baby's little body, from the top of her head to the soles of her feet. Okay. And so God is good, even in the midst of the circumstances, I learned, like, at first I was like questioning God, like, man, why did you do this? Like, I'm fasting, I'm praying, I'm trying to live right. And then boom, you hit me with this. Yeah, this was when I had just broke up with my fiance. Like, well, a year later we broke up, and I'm just going through all of these things at the same time, and it was a lot. It was really a lot. But even in the midst of it, he kept his hands on us, and he gave me the peace that I was praying for, because it's hard looking at your child go through something that you have absolutely no control of. You get what I'm saying? Hey, San Jose. I can't do nothing but sit there and support her while she's going through, those things that she's going through. And so, like I said, he gave me peace, because I would worry myself wondering, like, what is her life going to be like? She can't do this. She can't do that. Will she be able to drive? It would just, how is her social life going to be? Like, all of those things was racking my brain, but God gave me the peace, that I desperately needed to care for her effectively. I was one of those people that didn't really talk. I didn't know how to advocate too well, but when he gave me her, I had to learn how to advocate, because believe it or not, these hospitals, these doctors will do whatever. They'll give you whatever treatment. They'll treat you however, if you allow them to. You feel me? And so having had her and having all of the challenges that she has had, like, it has definitely taught me to stand firm, to speak up and not allow them to just give mediocre treatment. You feel me? Hey, Lionel, what's good? So, that's the little story or whatever of how it happened, and, where we are today with epilepsy. I definitely didn't want her growing up thinking that something was wrong with her, or that, she had to succumb to her disabilities. Like, nah, I wanted her to know she's normal, that, she's capable of doing anything that anybody else can, because at first I was kind of crippling her, like, I'm doing everything for her. I'm, like, it was actually sick, but I had to step back and just and trust the process. Right. And I'm so happy I did, because now, she has so much confidence, to the point where she's even making people aware of what it is. She knows, because at first I would hide giving her the medication. I was trying to keep it from her, but I got to a point where I'm like, look, Taylor, this is what it is. You have this, right now, this is what we're dealing with. And for the time being, we have to take this medication. My baby takes medication every 12 hours. Okay. So in the morning time when we wake up, and at the nighttime when we go to sleep. Okay. And so, now she don't fight me about giving her the medicine or whatever. Now she knows, like, what's going on, and she can tell a person, like, what's happening. And that's what I want her to be confident in, that, so, she have friends, maybe they can be aware of what's going on, and if they playing, they can notice if anything happens or any changes while they're playing. And I think that's very important, is that we empower our kids, especially at this young age, because it's some cruel people in the world, and I always pray, like, Lord, please don't let her have one at school, and she hasn't, and I'm so grateful. I'm grateful to God. So I just wanted to share these little videos with you guys, just to give like a cute little presentation, because like I said, today is like awareness day, where we just give a little awareness about epilepsy, and a little education about it and what you can do if you see somebody having a seizure. All right. So I just shared my screen and we're going to play this. Well, I'm going to mute myself, guys. How do I get back to it? Y'all know I don't know how to do this, child. I'm going to mute. And then, all right.
So I'm Dr. Holder. I'm a pediatric epileptologist. I specialize in treating children and adolescents with seizures. And so epilepsy is very common. 1 in 26 Americans has epilepsy. No matter who you are, where you live, what type of work you do, anyone can be diagnosed with epilepsy tomorrow. So this is something that really everyone should learn about. So a seizure is abnormal electrical activity in the brain. Sometimes we think of it like an electrical storm. I like to think of the brain as being in balance. So we have chemicals in our brain that are excitatory, and we have chemicals that are inhibitory. Either of those, too much excitation or too little inhibition, can cause a seizure. And what we try to do with our treatments is get the brain back in balance.
Wait, so I noticed that it sounded a little choppy. Did it sound choppy on y'all end? Like, how do I fix that? Because I think the last time it was choppy, right? And I mean, what do you have to do? Like, is it something I have to do to make it stop being choppy? Or what? What do y'all think? Let me see. Let me try to press play. Hold on.
Epilepsy is not contagious. You can't catch epilepsy from somebody else. You want to make sure that they stay safe and they don't hurt themselves. So seizures can look like a lot of different things on the outside, and it's important that we know what to look for so we can recognize when someone's having a seizure. So let's take a look at both the most common and lesser known seizures. Generalized tonic-clonic seizure is probably the most recognizable seizure. Usually a patient becomes stiff first, and then usually rhythmic jerking involving the entire body. Patients are usually unconscious during the seizure and may need some help. Seizures usually last 2 to 3 minutes and usually resolve on their own. So a focal aware seizure is a seizure where it starts in a small area in the brain and the patient remains conscious during the seizure. The person may have twitching of one part of their body, an arm or a hand or their face. They may have funny sensations somewhere in their body that's hard for them to describe. Sometimes patients report a funny sensation in their belly. They feel sick to their stomach, so they may be slow to respond to questions. They may get confused when they're answering their questions, or they may not be able to communicate with you at all. Generalized absence seizures are very brief staring seizures. It's almost like someone flips a light switch. 1 second the child's there answering questions, and then the seizure starts and they're immediately gone. And then as soon as the seizure ends, they're right back where they were, sometimes even finishing the sentence that they started before the seizure. Sometimes if you look very closely, you can see subtle signs that they're having a seizure, and occasionally the kids will know that they've missed something. I've had kids call them glitches or memory lapses. So sometimes we can get that information from the patients if we ask them. What is it like to have a seizure?
Before I have a seizure, first I would slowly start to black out. I would begin to get sleepy and my vision would slowly fade away, I believe.
5 seconds before to 30 seconds before, I kind of get this anxiety build up, and when the seizure is coming, I get some pulsation in my head.
I haven't been really able to know when they're coming on. I usually just wake up and I'm like, what happened?
So it can be overwhelming to hear a diagnosis of epilepsy, but what we want people to know is that really, for the most part, you or your loved one can live a very normal life and do all the things they wanted to do even after they've been given the diagnosis of epilepsy. Many patients who are diagnosed with epilepsy need to take some medication to control their seizures. And the good news is that we have so many medications available now that in almost all patients we can find a medication that's effective, controls seizures, and has no side effects. Other options would include things like diet therapy, neuromodulation, which includes devices that are implanted to treat seizures, and surgery. It's important for anybody who's having what I kind of would call a funny spell, any kind of abnormal behavior, movement, report to your primary care doctor what happened and tell them you think it might have been a seizure. Then the person needs to be referred to an epileptologist, which are doctors who specialize in the treatment of epilepsy. It's okay if you can only find a neurologist in your community to start there, which is a doctor that specializes in problems of the brain. If you're a child, you should see a child neurologist, and if you're an adult, you should see an adult neurologist. The appropriate medical test for a new onset seizure is an electroencephalogram or an EEG, which is a brainwave test. And this can give us a lot of information about whether someone's having a seizure. Not everybody with epilepsy has an abnormal EEG, but it is the best place to start. With the information from an EEG and with a neurology appointment, we should be able to make a decision if the person's had a seizure or if we need to do any further testing. Anybody who's failed 2 treatments and is still having seizures should see an epileptologist. In that case, you should really make the trip, go wherever you need to go to see an epilepsy specialist. So the goal in treating seizures are trying to get your seizures under the best control you can, especially while the brain's developing, and have patients get right back at their life and be doing all the things they were doing before the seizures were diagnosed.
I know it feels the significant weight on you right now, but it will get better. And there are people out there that are suffering what you're suffering, so reach out to them, hear what they have to say.
It's a normal thing, and like it's not going to stop me from like doing things I love and like seeing the people you love.
For a really long time, I was ashamed of having epilepsy, but even though it made my life really difficult, it did kind of help me grow, and I learned a lot more about everything.
If I know someone that was diagnosed with epilepsy, I would tell them to take their medication daily so they won't trigger any seizures.
I would strongly recommend them to take care of themselves as well. Take time to pamper, vent, cry, or do something they enjoy, because it helps, and we need that as parents.
I would tell them to stay happy and do creative stuff.
Finding people who really understand has been the most helpful for our family.
That has helped me, and your experience can also help somebody else.
And the group of us around the world who've lived with this in our families have a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge, and we have a lot of love for each other. We're all here to support each other.
Make sure you seek out communities like the Epilepsy Foundation Los Angeles for further information and assistance. They are there to help and provide guidance for everything.
Shout out to the Epilepsy Foundation of Los Angeles. Last year, we actually participated in a, what's up, LL? Last year, we actually participated in a walk, and we raised money for the walk. And Taylor's team, we raised $1,000, I believe, towards epilepsy, like for a cure. And so we had shirts. People came out and walked on her behalf. It was pretty dope, man. There was so many people there. They had, a lot of things to do or whatever. And so, yeah, man, we've been heavily involved, and I'm telling you, it's really important to empower. So that's why I'm spreading awareness. Delina said that she's familiar with seizures and she had violent ones herself. And so, man, listen, hers haven't been too violent. The last one she did urinate on herself, which I thought was like wild, but maybe it was because she, but yeah, man. Okay, I'm just gonna show one more and then I'm gonna be finished, guys. And this is pretty, hopefully the audio is better. I don't know, but this next one I'm gonna show is only 3 minutes. And it's talking about seizure first aid. What to do when you see a person having one.
One in 10 people will have a seizure at some point in their lifetime. Any of us could be diagnosed with epilepsy, and any of us could have a family member or friend diagnosed with epilepsy. And we may see someone having a seizure in our daily lives, and we may be the one that's called on to intervene and help that person. Something that we should all learn about and we should all know about, because it can happen to any of us at any time. This person is having a generalized tonic-clonic seizure. So first, his friends make sure he's safe and comfortable and remove any objects that can hurt him, and then roll him on his side to make sure that the airway stays open. It's important to put someone on their side so if after the seizure they get sick and throw up, it comes out their mouth. When you see someone having a seizure, especially if you haven't seen someone have a seizure before, it always seems to last much longer than it actually does. Make sure you time the event by looking at your watch to see what time it starts, so you can provide this information to anyone who comes to the scene to offer help that they need. Most seizures last 2 to 3 minutes and stop on their own. If a seizure is prolonged and goes on longer than 5 minutes, someone should call 911 so that medical assistance can be provided. You might want to look and see if the patient is wearing a medical bracelet so that we can determine if they have a history of seizures. It's important to remember these 3 steps. Stay safe side. Stay with the person until the seizure is over. Make sure they are safe. Turn the person on their side and make sure they are comfortable. So it's important to understand that when a person's having a seizure, they probably won't remember what it's like to have a seizure, especially for the convulsive seizures. They may remember something before the seizure, a funny feeling or that something doesn't feel right, but usually the seizure itself is not something that a patient remembers. When the seizure stops, they're often confused and they may not know what's happened. So it's important to comfort them and tell them that they're safe and make sure that they know that everything's okay. I would say if you find someone who you don't know and you don't know their history, that you should call 911 anytime you come upon someone having a seizure, but still follow the stay safe side recommendations. If it's a family member or someone you know with a history of seizures and you're comfortable and the seizure ends in less than 5 minutes, it's okay to not call 911. If they recover from their seizure and they're back to baseline, you can just monitor them at home. You should never put anything in a person's mouth when they're having a seizure. It is not necessary and it can be harmful to both you and the person. All we need to do is the steps we've already discussed, put them on their side, keep them safe, and stay with them. 1 in 26 Americans has epilepsy. At some point, you or someone you know will have a seizure, but now you know what to do. Make sure to seek out communities like the Epilepsy Foundation Los Angeles for further information and assistance.
Oh dang, I'm just talking, child. Hey, I was saying, that was a really important video. It was, short and sweet. If you know anybody that's experiencing seizures, or if you just see somebody out and about that might be experiencing it, simple, stay with them, lay them on their side, make sure that they safe. Don't put nothing in their mouth, and stay calm. I was saying how important it is for you to stay calm, because I think they be knowing what's going on. They just can't respond to you, So usually I try to talk to Taylor. I talk her through it. I ain't never just waited it out. I always call 911. I ain't gonna hold you. I always call 911. And we always end up at the hospital. So y'all can imagine the hospital bills that I have racked up and accumulated over the times that she has went. Ambulance bills and hospital bills. Yeah. Bridget said it was informative. Shout out to y'all. Amen, cheapo, because I freaked the F out, man. Yeah, San Jose experienced it with one of her little ones, man. It's no joke. It's no joke. And see, when Taylor first had her seizure, her dad didn't want me to tell nobody. um, I felt like we had to keep it to ourselves, but it didn't make sense to me because it's like, if people are going to be caring for her, people are going to be seeing her, they need to know like, hey, this is happening so that they could be able to respond and help her. And, over the years, I've developed friendships with, well, not friendships, but I've associated myself with other moms that, that children experience this or what have you. And, we support each other through it. Actually, his sister, their daughter had a seizure not too long ago, and the first person they hit up was me. They like, hey, I think my baby's having a seizure. What do I do? And I was able to, coach him through it or what have you. And I let her know, like, hey, if it's anything you need to know, just ask me or whatever. I ain't all knowledgeable, but I done experienced it enough times to know, like, okay, this is this or what have you. So, San Jose said, yeah, I don't tell a lot of people. Yeah, I mean, we was like that, but at this point, like, I feel like it's time to break the stigma of these things, like when I was growing up, I remember seeing somebody have a seizure and I'm thinking they was possessed. People they have associated it with that, because they were just ignorant to what was going on with their bodies. And so if I can promote wellness and healthy living and awareness for people and break the stigmas, child, I will, but yeah, man, shout out to everybody that came, man. I appreciate all of y'all for just even supporting and sitting through it and listening. Now you got some information to spread, tell a friend and tell a friend. That's what it's about, getting info and just, giving it to other people. But yeah, I think I'm done rambling. I think I'm done rambling. I don't know how people do this. Like, shout out to the content creators that be up here on these panels doing a show by themselves, because it is not easy. I can tell it ain't easy to just sit up here and hold people's attention for long periods of time. So if you able to do that, man, shout out to you. But all right, man, listen, I'm about to get up out of here. I see other people are about to go live soon. I'm about to, get my little baby ready for bed. And, we gonna get this thing on. We almost to Friday, y'all. Hold on. We almost there, y'all. We almost there. Thank you, San Jose. I truly appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I pray that God keeps each and every one of you too, under the sound of my voice. All right. So without further ado, I'm gonna get up out of here. Don't forget to like, share, and comment. If you can, share the video. Until the next time, y'all stay true. Y'all stay blessed. Peace.